Hey guys, Marcel here from theScore eSports. We're here with another interview. We talked to none other than YamatoCannon, coach from Splyce, after his tie against them, the tie of course, against Team Vitality. So I want to catch up on the last interview we had. You said we will see next split, and then you came into this split already. You had like 2 or 3 weeks of practice, right? Do you think it's finally the time to shine with your team, like live up to the expectations, to the system that you built it as a coach?
For sure. I feel like there's a clear difference because, when we, for example, we reviewed things in scrims, it took very long because, the guys didn't know the basics. They just came from Challenger Series, and that's okay. And with that in mind, they learned very, very fast. And at this point, they understand the system. So everything we do is so much more efficient. I just say, this is blue, okay, they understand blue. I don't need to explain the color blue and what it does, everything is fine. I just say blue, okay, that is it. Sure, maybe it's a bad example to say blue, but you get my point, right?
Blue dragon,
Yeah, blue dragon. But in general, we got the basics down. Everything is very efficient. I felt like, I didn't need to do a lot of changes because I had 4 players that were very mechanically gifted. All they needed to know was how to play the game. And at this point, I felt like I've taught them to think for themselves. And together with the mechanics, I think we can do great things.
So coming into the split, you made like 1 roster change in the support role. Maybe you want to talk a bit of like why did you do that? What did you bring to the team that the other support couldn't? And how is he adapting to the team?
Well, Mikyx, he's adapting perfectly. He played. I have to thank Dynamic Q. A lot of people are complaining about Dynamic Q, but Dynamic Q gave me Mikyx, and it was a lot of. I played with him personally, and I saw almost instantly that he has a very good attitude. He learns fast. Someone tells him something. He was playing with a lot of different players, Trick, etc., with Dynamic Q, and he took in everything that people said to him, and he learned fast. And on top of that, he had mechanics and he still has mechanics that measure with the best supports in Europe. So with that in mind, it fits into my mold with how I want my players. I want 5 mechanically gifted players. I teach them the game, and then they just go and have fun.
All right. Did you have fun in your last game? I mean, you went 1-1 against Vitality. Everyone thought clear 2-0 for Vitality. But first game, I could actually watch that game, but the second I couldn't. So you can maybe talk about those 2 games, how they went from a coaching perspective and what went wrong, what went right.
So in this game, they had Kindred Jungle, they had Karma, and they had Lissandra Maokai. It means a lot when we have Victor and Graves that we just scale into the game. First 10 minutes went perfect for us, nothing happened, and we're even on gold, and even our Lucian Trundle lane ends up ahead against Karma. But I felt like the big mistake we did was, because, we picked Graves. I think Graves right now is very, very weak. It's very, very like an old matchup, this Kindred Graves thing. And I feel like with Graves, even when you have a weak jungle matchup, you can always do things at the other side of the map. And we kept track of Kindred. But the problem with Graves is you can't really do much. You E in and you smoke screen, and it's kind of boring, and you can't really do much. I felt like the jungle pick was weak, and eventually in the game as well, they caught us like off guard by taking a Baron, and that kind of swung the game in their favor because we did have a tower advantage. We kind of out-rotated them, and that Baron really, really swung the game in their favor because we had some clashes around Drakes, and they ended up ahead in those because Lissandra just caught 4 or 3 people every time. So Lissandra, definite MVP. Good job, Nuktak.
To catch on a bit about the jungle, it's really interesting for me to talk about that. So why are teams banning, so Kindred and Nidalee are top tier, right? We can agree on that. Why are teams only picking one, banning one and then giving the other for free? Is there a reason behind that?
I think it's very surprising. Like in our case, we wanted to trade. We wanted to squeeze in Lucian and Echo. I think this is a fair trade to do. Lucian obviously super broken with the new build, and I think it's fine to trade. But I agree with you, Kindred, Nidalee, of course, top dogs. And then after that, when these 2 are out of the picture, I definitely think Rek'Sai is on top because you play AP mid, you play AP top. Rek'Sai is just perfect. Lee Sin has bad matchup into Rek'Sai, and Rek'Sai can pressure the map that Graves can't do. So you need AD jungler. Rek'Sai is perfect for that.
Wow, something I agree with from an expert. Okay, so let's talk a bit more about the games, right? So meta game, obviously, you guys had a bit of time. Dragons are kind of random. I mean, we saw that 3 dragons for the mountain kind of evaporate Baron out of nowhere, right? So what's like the dynamic right now? Do you think the RNG in the Dragons is cool, or is it still too early to tell?
I feel like, there's been, games are very different. We played maybe 100, 150 scrims, and all games look very, very different. 3 Infernal Drakes here, etc. Obviously, there is like a ranking for which Drake is more useful than the other. There is something that I disagree with a lot of people where they put Mountain Drake as the second best Drake, because I think Mountain Drake is really good if you're winning, but I'd rather have a dragon that helps you put you like in a winning position. Like Mountain Drake, of course, looks very fancy if you're in a winning position. You're pushing towers, you're hitting towers, you're hitting Baron, then you're in a winning position. You don't need extra help to kill these extra things. Sure, it looks fancy if you kill Baron in 3 seconds, but to be honest, I think the Ocean Drake is better because it actually gives you combat stats. And of course, Infernal Drake on top and Cloud Drake is just, you just don't even look at it, it's garbage.
So there's this other objective on the map called Rift Herald, but no one really cares anymore about that. So you want to talk about like maybe the dynamic, how the lane swap kind of affects that Rift Herald? Like, is it still good? When would you go for it? From like, how would you coach your players? Like, what's the decision making behind? Hey, you guys have to take Rift Herald right now.
Well, usually the problem with Rift Herald is so hard to take. You give up so much tempo, and in some rare scenarios, it actually matters. But in this case, a lot of the top laners, they are AP, and every AP top laner buys Spirit Visage, so the extra damage from the Rift Herald and the risk with the tempo that you give up is just not worth it. In some rare scenarios where people might play Fiora or whatever, then Rift Herald makes a difference. But I just don't see it in the current meta making a difference in any matchup at all, so it's just not worth taking.
So we still have to talk about the middle of the whole meta, right? So do you think it's kind of going back to, hey, Ryze, Azir, Victor is like the top 3 right now, and then you can play everything, or what's the general take on that? I mean, it's pretty interesting to hear from a coach perspective.
I feel like, there are some set blind picks that you can take. We showed that we can blind pick Vladimir, for example. They counter with LeBlanc, which is completely fine, but definitely like the mage change was very underwhelming. A lot of the champions are kind of useless, but still you see some Swain, you see some Vladimir, which is interesting. But in general, I feel when Ryze is out of the picture, you can almost always on red side counter pick the enemy mid lane, which is perfect. I think Azir does have bad matchups, and as a lot of the champions that people used to play kind of fall out of favor, I think Azir is also going to follow that, because it was very specific in the case Azir was good. It was against the LeBlanc, it was against, for example, the Ryze, it was against Victor as well. But I feel like Azir, he's fine right now, but I think he's going to fall out of favor because more and more counter picks are going to appear in the shape of, for example, Varus.
All right. I think we covered like all the good stuff from meta change and everything. Last question to you and your team. Can we expect Splyce finally in the playoffs, or is it still like a bit of work? Because I think we can say that all middle tier teams upgraded their roster quite heavily, right?
I feel like this is definitely our split. This is our split. Watch out. We're coming for you. Yeah. We're coming for you.
All right, thank you so much for this interview. Always a pleasure to talk to this gentleman here on my left side. If you guys want to check out more stuff, we have them covered at theScore eSports.com. Make sure to check out our website. We have plenty of interviews there from the Summer Split, and see you guys next time. Bye.